Hey guys, mostly just doing some testing. We'll probably do some content here in a little bit. Just hang tight. We're testing the GH7 1080p to YouTube using the new firmware on the Panasonic, allowing us to stream directly to an RTMP server. So don't do a lot of that kind of thing, and there's still some bugs we're working out. Specifically, and of course I'm using the laptop so I can do YouTube Studio to kind of see the stream health and stuff like that. I don't like the coloring. I suspect that the white balance is off. On the Panasonic, if you're familiar with most Panasonic cameras, they've got a quick setting on the back to allow you to go in and make some changes. And when we're streaming using like an HDMI out to, say, the Zowie box, you know, we can go in and hit that Q button, set the white balance to the same color that our lights are projecting, and it doesn't seem to be available when we're streaming using the native streaming app on the phone or on the camera. So maybe you got to set that in advance, but I would have thought it would have been set properly from the last time. So I look kind of blue, and you know, when you got old guy syndrome and you got a lot of white in your beard, I don't feel like I'm old enough to have the blue hair syndrome yet, but maybe I do. We'll work on that. So that's really what this is about. We've been doing more live stream testing because we're coming up on ball season. And while we don't necessarily think that the GH7 is going to be a good streaming camera, it really could be. And certainly in the outfield. Let's say you have a really good telephoto lens. We've got a decent Lumix telephoto lens. I can't remember how far it goes. I think it starts at 75. We've got a 14 to 42 or 14 to 45 on this camera right now. That's a Lumix, and I believe that the telephoto starts at the end of this one and goes up. Maybe it's 150. I can't remember. It does a fair job of getting up close to the plate on a 320-foot field that we experimented with, and yeah, that did a pretty decent job. So again, I don't know how viable a mirrorless type camera similar to a DSLR would be at the ball field. You know, they're more expensive. They certainly are not ruggedized. They're not sports action cameras, although this GH7 has a magnesium case. It's sealed. It's designed to be used, I wouldn't say professionally, but prosumer quality. Certainly you wouldn't want it to get super wet. That'd be a big problem specifically for the lenses, but just in general, you don't want to get a camera like this wet. There are easier ways to protect a camera like this, just with some plastic bags and some rubber bands around the lens. Back in the old wedding photography days, that's what we were able to do. So probably not going to do a whole lot more. Again, I don't really do lives like this for content purposes. That's why we don't announce that we're going live, because we don't want to make an announcement that we're going live and then waste your time with some experiments. But we do like to leave our lives publicly available so you can see sort of what it takes. Again, I don't care for RTMP streaming in general. Native streaming always works better when you can. There's not an easy way to native stream with this camera. You can use on your smart device. There's some lab software and some other software that you can use from Panasonic to do some streaming. And I do believe they have the capability to stream to the native YouTube platform or the native Facebook. Well, probably not Facebook, since Facebook's, whether they'll admit it or not, they're getting out of the live streaming business. It's too difficult to stream to them these days because they keep changing the API. YouTube obviously is our preference. We do more communication with you guys on Facebook. It's just easier to collaborate and communicate on Facebook than it is for YouTube for us. But obviously video is what YouTube is about, so that seems to work the best. So anyhow, not a whole lot more to add. We're certainly going to be playing a little bit more. The next thing that we're probably going to do is to do a 4K stream with the Mevo Core. We did a 1080p live stream with the Mevo Core the other night, which for me, for live streaming, 1080 is probably the best resolution to use in the shop. Out in the field, 720 may be the best you can do, just depending on your media, your carrier service. That's the other thing that I will mention in testing with this camera. It doesn't do a very good job of losing connection. And again, I was experimenting with RTMP to Facebook, and I put it in the car. I did some streaming connected to our mobile router, and it vanished into the ether. So I have suspicions that it didn't go, and I think Facebook is one of those that requires you to start it on their end. But that's what I was getting at a while ago. That's one of the main reasons why I don't care for RTMP streaming is you're kind of doing it blind. And if you're doing it for the purposes, like I am with this camera, if you're doing it for the purposes of not having to use a smartphone, that's good and bad. Okay, it's great that you can just use a single device connected to a data service and stream. The bad thing is, because you don't have another device, you have no idea if you're streaming or not. And if you like to live stream and get some response, some chats and things like that, you're going to need that device anyhow. So for our testing purposes, that's just not something that I think we would use. This is handy, setting it up in the shop. I'm connected to our Starlink wireless router. The camera's just running. There's no wire connected to it. We've got our Rode Wireless Pro connected to the mic input for audio purposes. But other than that, nothing else is on that camera. So, as far as simplicity in the studio, I think that's great. But more times than not, as we're streaming with this camera, since the camera can't stream in 4K, then there's really no need to not use our Zowie box. If you haven't seen our previous videos, a Zowie box is an encoder. So it takes an HDMI signal on one side and outputs it to some other protocol. What we typically do is NDI. NDI is a native streaming protocol that Mevo accepts, and so we can use our Mevo multicam, accept the NDI camera, and not have to use a Mevo camera to do that. That gives us the ability to use the Mevo cameras, this camera, and a couple other things at the same time for the multicam app. But since the Core does 4K and this camera won't stream in 4K, we would probably not use this for that. Again, since the Zowie box can stream 4K, that's probably what we would do. And the Zowie box can do exactly what this is doing. It could connect to our wireless. It could connect to YouTube via RTMP. But again, since we typically do 1080p, even if we're not using a Mevo device, it's too easy to use either the Mevo multicam or the single cam and see exactly what you're producing on your social media site to be able to put even a lower thirds or a little logo bug. It's pretty handy, and it doesn't really require a lot of overhead, and it works very, very well on tablets. We are partial to Android, but we typically do that kind of stuff with an iPad because the iPad just has a bigger processor to handle that. Certainly with multicam, we use the iPad. A single cam, we've been trying to play more often using the Google Pixel tablet, just because for me, I'm just more adept at using an Android than I am an iPad. The only thing I use an Apple product for is for the Mevo multicam streaming. Absolutely nothing else. And it's not a ding against iPads. I just can't stand to use them. It's just the way it is. Everything is different for the purposes of being different. So, wow, did I babble for 13 minutes and 44 seconds. So I am going to end this stream. Again, I'm going to leave this. We had just a couple people connect. Again, I'm not a content producer that draws in a crowd, so I didn't anticipate that. But we will leave this public. So more than anything, so that over the time we can sort of see what was the quality. Did we drop frames? Did the audio skip? Again, I want to check the color on a different device because to me it looks like the color is really blue. So we're definitely going to be working on that. But that's all I got for now. Thank you guys for your time. We'll talk to you later. See you.